What's going on, everyone? Ben and Dan here from the Friendly Neighborhood Fanboys, and the Flash embargo has officially lifted, so we can give you some of our initial thoughts. We're not going to get into spoilers yet. We are going to wait until the movie releases, until we get into all the nitty-gritty details of like actual story beats, plot elements, and characters.
And as always, if you guys enjoy the content, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, because it does do wonders for us here over at the channel to make more content much like this.
And follow us on Instagram for a chance to win this amazing Funko Pop. Let's start it off. What were your overall impressions of the movie when we saw it last week?
Honestly, like overall impressions, it was really positive. Like I had a really good time. Like even in my first impressions video, like I genuinely was excited leaving the theater. Now, having had some time to like sit on it and really think about it and be a little nitpicky with it, like it's definitely not a perfect movie by any stretch of the imagination, but it's definitely DC's best showing, I think, in a long time. Like we got a lot of great action set pieces. We got a lot of funny, quirky dialogue. We got some Batfleck action in there. There's a lot of cool cameos. So I mean, like overall, the movie is a really enjoyable experience. I think it's lacking a little bit of polish, but I think, we can't say until we see the actual version that hits the theaters to the public. We saw a little bit of an early version, and they did say that the movie's not this. It may change in the theatrical release. So maybe it'll touch up some of the CGI we just found was a little spotty in some parts, but for the most part, it is a really enjoyable, good movie.
Yeah, that's kind of my same thought process as well. Like I got out of the theater kind of feeling like, oh, I just watched a, from season 1 to 3 type CW Flash episode, but with a $200 million budget.
Yeah.
But with that being said, there was also a negative flip on that where, the CG borderline looked like the CW show in some parts.
It was pretty rough.
Which was disappointing. And I will say, without getting into detail or spoilers, that the actual Flash-centric special effects...
Amazing.
Amazing. Yeah. Absolutely. Like the lightning effects, the Speed Force effects, all that stuff is great. It's everything else that kind of fell off. There are a variety of things that we can't get into that should have been cool and should have been an awesome surprise, but were kind of muted by the fact that the CGI accompanying that cameo or that
pulls
look
you out of it.
pulled you out. So that's what I'll say about that. Plot wise, I would say it's strong in most places, but it does fall short in the third act.
Which is, it's classic superhero trope. But I mean, we just saw Across the Spider-Verse,
Exactly.
and it's like that's such a tight plot, and it's just like
I feel like there shouldn't be an excuse these days, especially for a character like the Flash, right? Like it's loosely based off of Flashpoint. Flashpoint is one of my favorite stories. I know it's beloved by so many people. And getting out of that movie, I was like, why didn't they just stick closer to that?
Yeah.
I know it's been done, obviously, like the book is fantastic. It's been done in animation
twice now, I think.
There's one similar one, and then like an actual Flashpoint adaptation, which was also great. So it's like, I know it's been overdone at this point, but also this is the first time we're seeing any of this stuff on the big screen.
Yeah.
So, why not just push it, more towards that book? But whatever, those are nitpicks. The story we got was kind of cool. It was very reminiscent of a story point in the CW Flash show. I'm not gonna say what that is, but for those fans of the show, you're gonna know exactly what I mean when you get out of that theater. So it's good, but it's also been done, and it's not that deep, but there's still emotional beats in it. Like I was crying borderline at the end there.
Like it is genuinely an emotional roller coaster. Like there are some points when you're like really invested in, the storyline, and like they hit some really hard hitting moments, and you're like, wow. But then like you'll instantly be pulled into like some of the comedy stuff, which is something I wanted to talk about too. Yes. There's a lot of comedy in this movie. Whether or not that's your cup of tea, I personally, I left the theater and I looked at Ben, I'm like, you're gonna think I'm a hypocrite for like loving the comedy in Guardians, but then like, no, it's not that I didn't like the comedy in this, there was just so much, like to the point of like, it was like almost like an absurdist sketch at points, which was like, there's a couple sequences which it's like, it's hilarious, or like, this is so absurd, but then it's like, every sequence is like that.
Yeah.
Particularly, there's a lot of comedy. You might love it, you might hate it. I feel like it's gonna be very polarizing for a lot of people. You're either are 100% on board or you absolutely hate it. I was like in it for like 70% of it, and then at the end I was just like, okay, I can only handle so much of this. So
I'll say this: picture like Snyder cut Barry Allen and like that humor, but dialed up a bit more and literally in every scene. So it can get exhausting. I think Ezra Miller, despite all the things that they're going through the media right now, does a great job in the film. But again, I think it's just the way the character is written in this movie that kind of pushes it a little too over the top sometimes. But again, it does work. Like, we were genuinely like laughing out loud at a lot of the parts. It's just when they're supposed to be serious beats and then it's just passed off as comedy right at the end or something, anything like that. Little annoying. Other than that though, I mean, aside from the CGI, the actual cameos themselves were very cool. Yeah. It was very like old school, like 90s DC, explaining like different worlds and different timelines, and you kind of get to see little glimpses of those timelines. So it's very, very cool. Kind of reminiscent of the show in that respect as well, but a little more pushing the boundaries, especially like the stuff they do with the Speed Force, which is really, really cool. So yeah, overall, I would personally say it's a pretty good movie, but it's not great by any stretch of the imagination. Like, it definitely could use work, and we hope that this final cut that we see when the movie actually releases is a little bit more cleaned up.
Yeah, I mean, I think my like ending review, I want to see it again before I like make it distinctive. Like, I think it's a good, entertaining movie for what it is, and I honestly I do genuinely think it's one of DC's best outings. There hasn't been a whole lot of positivity coming out of there, so I mean, like, I'm really like happy that we got something that's like a lot of people are really happy with, and I think a lot of people are going to be really happy with this movie. So I think it's good. It does need some cleaning up, it needs some polishing on like the technical side of things. Whether or not we're going to see that in the actual theatrical release, I'm very curious to see. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I do recommend you go see it. It is a fun time, and I'm curious to see how people take this movie, because I want to see what the reception of it is. I'm genuinely curious. I don't think it's going to be a unanimous,
for sure,
rating. I think it's going to be like, you either love it or you hate it.
It's going to be very mixed. Those reviews are going to start flowing in tonight as soon as this video drops, so keep a lookout for them. I'm actually very, very curious to see the audience versus critic score here. So look forward to the movie still. Definitely go watch it. It's worth the watch. This universe is going to change going forward with all the James Gunn stuff happening, so there's no guarantee that Ezra or this version of the Flash will even stick around. So just go support it and look forward to what's coming in the future. And stay tuned for our podcast where we do a full breakdown. All the boys will see it, and we'll go into full details. Thanks for stopping by. See you guys later.